I'm joined right now by Ashish Somaiya, who's the Chief Executive Officer of White Oak Capital. Ashish, thanks so much for taking the time. And more of the same, I think, is what we're seeing in the month of August, and considerable inflows once again into sectoral and thematic funds. Are you at all concerned with the kind of money that is going into these schemes?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, if you look at in net flow terms, I heard you mentioned about new fund launches. And, if you look, further, so like you rightly said, new fund launches, mostly thematic funds, well over 10,000 crores, right? That is one data to look at. And if you look beyond just new fund offers and you look at the business as usual, the total flows. So what you will find if you look at the total flows is that, in equity-oriented funds, like you said, some 38,000 crores of net flow. Out of that, nearly half of it is thematic funds. So I think that's kind of, not a great thing to really have, if you ask me. Because when you look at the thematic funds which are launched and the thematic funds which seem to have collected money, right? So you will find stuff like, macro driven. See, when somebody launches a business cycle fund, those kinds of funds are launched when they find that stock picking or bottom up doesn't seem to work and macro themes seem to be working, right? So you've seen a lot of this manufacturing, defense, energy, and then you've seen business cycle, which is also top-down macro-driven because last 2 years, that's how the macro is determined which sectors and which market caps will work. But what happens is that a lot of that is rearview mirror driving, right? And a lot of that money is going into sectors and stocks which have already done their bit. Whereas the reality is that in the last 3 to 6 months, the best performing sector by a mile is probably pharma and healthcare. Right, and I don't think you are seeing any such thematic funds being discussed out there. So yeah, I mean the numbers are great, but the under the hood, the trend or where the money is going from a long-term perspective, not that great.
Yeah, and which is concerning, and hopefully more people are listening to what you're saying when they're making the choices, and take that into account when they make the choices that they are making. What do you make of the inflows into large cap funds? It seems quite interesting, right? Because evidently there is the smart money that is now rotating out of the broader markets and into the large caps because they're a little risk averse. 2,637 crore rupees into actively managed large caps. I haven't looked at many months of data, but I would hazard a guess to say that this is one of the highest that we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, it's better than before. It's better than before. But, again, when you put it in light with what is happening with thematic funds, and, the fact is that on a, if you were to look at it, forget just net flow, even on a gross flow basis, because generally what happens is that when you look at net flow, it hides a lot of things. You should ideally see the gross flow and the outflow. So what you will find is that on a gross inflow basis, small cap and mid cap got more than large cap. And on an outflow basis, small cap lost less than large cap. So what you're finding is that on a net flow basis, still small cap and mid cap and thematic, if you take the pecking order, it is thematic has the highest net flow. Then, it is small cap, mid cap, and, those kinds of things which stack up. And large cap and, large cap, flexi cap, all of that is there. But large cap is like kind of at the bottom when you look at flows, net or gross or whichever way.
Yeah, that's a very important point that you're raising on the gross flow number. I'm also curious, Ashish, about what the SIP number is once again. And I'm also curious about what you have to say, because we've been looking for this data from AMFI for a while. About the net SIP flow data, because the contention has been that the gross number, and I've been looking at it since July of 2023, Ashish, the gross number every month has been a new record. So that's great. But there have been closure of SIPs as well. I have been told in the past, look, that's par for the course. And even back when it was 13,000 crore rupees of SIP, anyway, 50% was the net number, 50% or 40%. Is that the way to look at it even now at 23,000 plus crore?
Yes. When you look at 23,000 crore, obviously that's the headline number.
Yeah.
And, different fund houses will have different rate of collection. Say, for example, if there are 100 people who have done 3,000 rupee SIPs, then out of 100, say certain proportion, like say 60-70% might get collected, and say 20-30%, it might get dishonored, or maybe it bounces once and the next time it gets collected, etc. So really, I don't have a number at an industry level in terms of what that proportion is. The second thing is that when you look at net number, so sometimes when people say net, I think there is a confusion which I want to clarify. That there is a stock and there is a flow, right? So in the industry, let us say if you look at equity funds and hybrid funds, the AUM is say 36 lakh crores. Now I'm not counting ETF and index, just counting actively managed equity funds and this balance advantage, etc. Let's say the AUM is about 36-37 lakh crores. Out of that, you will find that the SIP AUM is say maybe about 14-15 lakh crores. Now, because the SIP AUM is 14-15 lakh crores, whose money is it? Is investors' money. When they need the money, they will remove it. Correct. So any which way the industry gets, like if you see this month, there's 90,000 crore of inflow and some 45-50,000 crore of outflow. So the net flow totally in equity and hybrid is about 40-42,000 crores. So when you have 40-45,000 crore of redemption in a month, obviously some of it's investors' money. I mean, it's their prerogative to withdraw when they require. So even in the SIP AUM, people who accumulated over the years, their goals are met, they need money, liquidity, market condition, many things, they might withdraw money. So when you look at net number of SIP, I think you should not be focusing too much on the net number, because it's investors' money, they will withdraw. And the point is that redemption is a function of how big your AUM is, whereas inflow is a function of what people are thinking today.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is the challenge. But yes, I understand your question. Your question was that how much of the 23,000 actually gets collected. I really don't have a number on that.
Yeah.
But safe to say that maybe 60-70% is collected, and at any point in time, some people don't pay this month, they pay next month. These kind of things do happen.
That's a fair point. Ashish, thanks so much for that insight. It's actually quite interesting. Before we actually get the SIP number, and I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that there's another record to talk about. Thanks so much for joining in.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining in. Pleasure.